The recent news items, China, U.S., we saw the trade deal now signed. We've seen a de-escalation of tensions with Iran. Is everything rosy in the world right now? Can we breathe a sigh of relief?
I doubt it. The markets, I think, want to believe that. But, the trade deal really doesn't amount to much. I was saying that from the beginning, that it was more hype, and that I thought that the markets would actually get more out of the promise of a trade deal than actually the delivery of a deal that didn't live up to expectations. And certainly this one did not. Nothing was really accomplished. Everything supposedly is back end loaded into phase two, but I don't think there's going to be a phase two. This is pretty much it. And the markets, the government isn't even really getting rid of the tariffs. The tariffs are still here, so there's still a problem. This is not a game changer for the U.S. economy at all. So I don't think this is really good news. The Middle East, I think that the tension is probably somewhat less elevated than it was when the missiles were flying, when they were retaliating. But I think there is more tension now than there was before we took out Soleimani. So I think the markets have more to worry about. But what they really need to worry about is the U.S. economy and the Fed policy, because it's Fed policy that's driven the rally. But this Fed policy is very destructive to the U.S. economy and ultimately to the U.S. dollar.
Well, let's talk about the Fed. Do you think that this will change at all their course of action?
Well, no. We're on a very disruptive course of action. They're going to keep on printing money. They're going to keep interest rates artificially low because they're afraid of the consequences of what they've already done. So rather than deal with those consequences, they want to kick the can down the road by making the consequences even worse, which is what they've done by lowering rates again and going back to quantitative easing.
Let's talk about gold now. Obviously, we'll go into in-depth detail tomorrow. Ray Dalio's Bridgewater coming out saying, hey, we wouldn't be surprised if gold rallies 30% this year, going up and above $2,000 an ounce. And you're saying no surprise there. I saw one tweet you put out on this. You agree?
No, gold could go a lot higher. In fact, I think if Trump is not reelected, right, if we get like President Sanders, gold should go above 2,000 this year. And if it's not above 2,000 by the election, it should be a 2,000 election night if we get the results. But ultimately, gold goes much higher than that. Because remember, gold got up to 1,900 back in 2011. And that was following a 10-year run where gold started below 300. So we had a big move. But the reason that gold got that high was because people initially had the correct reaction to QE and 0% rates, that this was a disaster and that the Fed was not going to be able to get out of this. But then all of a sudden, the Fed managed to convince everybody, at least everybody who counted, not me, but the mainstream, that, hey, they could normalize interest rates and shrink their balance sheet, and everything was going to be fine. And it was based on that false belief that gold pulled back. But now that people are coming to the conclusion that QE is indefinite and that rates are never going to normalize, the bottom's going to drop out of the dollar, and that means gold goes through the roof.
What do you make of, or when you hear that these Wall Street execs are coming out in favor of gold? Because for the longest time, as you know, Wall Street has not really been favorable to gold.
And they're still not. You're talking about Dalio. There's a couple of guys that are talking about it, Jeff Gundlach. But these guys are not mainstream thinkers. They're smart guys. But, if you look at the typical investment portfolio of a hedge fund or of, major investors, endowments, pension funds, they've got no exposure to gold. In fact, gold stocks have outperformed the S&P the last 4 years. They beat the S&P in 2019. They beat the S&P over the last 2 years. In fact, last year, the S&P was up 30%, but earnings were down 1%. Gold stocks were up about 40%, but earnings were up about 80%. But despite that, year to date, even though gold is up another 2.5% so far in January, gold stocks are down. And so there isn't a lot of enthusiasm for gold stocks in the investment community. The last time this happened, where gold was up in January and gold stocks were down, was 2000. 20 years ago.
I'm happy you're bringing that up, because that's the majority of the emails I'm getting right now is, with gold up, why aren't the mining stocks performing? Investors are frustrated.
Yeah, because look, they're not bullish. But if this is a repeat of 2000, think about January of 2000. That was the peak of the NASDAQ bubble, and it was the bottom of a 20-year bear market in gold. So even though gold started 2000 going up, investors were still negative on the stocks. why are they so negative now? Even though we've had a big increase in earnings of gold companies and gold stocks have been doing well, they're climbing a wall of worry. People are rushing into the NASDAQ when they should be buying gold stocks. So I think this is probably a harbinger of good things to come. I would take this as a contrarian indicator, and we should be buying gold stocks. I mean, I'm already, all in, but if you're not, you should be getting into this sector, and you should be taking the advantage of the hype in the U.S. stock market and selling particularly your NASDAQ type stocks.
What are you buying in the mining stock side? Is it the juniors, the mid tiers, the Barricks? What do you like?
Well, obviously, Barrick I think is pretty well positioned right now, but the best gains are going to be in the juniors if you get the right ones, right? Of course, you could buy the wrong ones. Right. That's why, look, I've turned over my stock picking in that area to Adrian Day, who was also here. I don't know if you're going to do an interview with Adrian, but he manages my gold fund. We got 5 stars, which is the most they give. I even got a plaque from Lipper, because I had the best gold fund for the 5 years ended December of last year. We gave back a little bit of ground last year, but we're still 5 stars. But I think that was because some of our positions really haven't matured yet. But I think we've got a great portfolio. So I think the best way to really get exposure to that junior sector is through my gold fund, because I think Adrian has created a great portfolio with tremendous potential, of course, if I'm right. The price of gold goes up.
You also love physical gold. You buy physical gold.
Yeah, well, they're very different animals. I mean, physical gold is a very secure, conservative store of value. It's an alternative to keeping cash, right? Rather than keeping dollars or euros, keep gold. Once you get into gold mining stocks, you got a whole new element of risk. You're an investor in a mining company. There are a lot of different things that can go wrong, but I think there's a lot of stuff that can go right for the miners that is not priced into those stocks.
I want to use that to segue into a crazy story you told me. We just happened to be on the same flight last night, yes. And you shared with me what happened to you have a wallet, Bitcoin wallet.
Well, I can't access it now, but I have it.
So if you could share with everyone what happened. So people were gifting you Bitcoin. You've been, you're not an advocate of that cryptocurrency.
No, well, what happened is, so initially, I did a debate with Eric Voorhees at the Soho Forum. You can see that debate on the internet. On YouTube, it's got over 500,000 views. So it's a popular debate. So after dinner, Eric and I went out, after the debate, we went out to dinner. And Eric set up a wallet for me on blockchain.com. I never had one, right? And so he gave me $100 worth of Bitcoin, and then I gave him $50 back. So I had $50 worth of Bitcoin in this wallet, right? And then, since I had that wallet, I went to the Money Show, and I had some copies of one of my dad's books, and one guy wanted to give me some cryptocurrency. And since I had this new wallet, I said, okay. And so he gave me some Ether and some Bitcoin Cash. So I had, and it was about $60 worth. So I had maybe $100 worth of crypto in my wallet. So I was on a panel with Jeffrey Tucker at Freedom Fest. And during that panel, I mentioned to him that I have this wallet now, and I have, Bitcoin, I've got Bitcoin Cash, I've got Ether, because I know he was a big crypto proponent, and I had not been really endorsing it. So I had mentioned to him, ironically, look, I've got some now. It was a tiny amount. So anyway, then Jeffrey does an interview on the radio, and he says, oh yeah, I was doing this panel with Peter Schiff, and he told me, I got Bitcoin, I got Bitcoin Cash, I got all this. So now all of a sudden there's rumors were circulating all over the internet that I'm a secret Bitcoin hodler, right? Like even though I'm trashing Bitcoin, I'm just buying it. I have all this money in Bitcoin, and so I'm not being honest. I really believe in it, but because it's negative for my gold business, I'm publicly. So what happened is, I was like, no, this isn't true. I've got a tiny amount of crypto that I got for free. And so then, Anthony Pompliano is like, oh, you got a wallet? Give me your address. I'll give you $100 worth, right?
How lucky are you? Everyone's just people aren't getting gifted.
Well, but anyway, so here goes the story. So Anthony Pompliano said, I'll give you some money. So I said, okay, here's my wallet. And I gave him that. I never really used it. Right. So I gave him my wallet ID. Initially, I gave him the wrong one. And then I gave him the right one. And Anthony never gave me the $100. But other people gave me about $2,000 worth. All of a sudden, I started getting all these little gifts. So that was the entire content of my wallet. And so I was on the internet the other day, and somebody was bringing up the fact that I was, a secret Bitcoin hodler. Right. And so I went to check out my wallet on my phone. And I go to log in, and I don't have the normally it just has a keypad, and I push in my numeric code. and all of a sudden it says, hey, I've been logged out or something's wrong, I got to log back in, and my code doesn't work anymore, my password. And so now my Bitcoin are gone. And I contacted Eric, and he's like, well, you need to have your like phrase, your memory phrase. What's that? You never told me about that. He set it up for me. He never told me.
So the moral of the story is
easy come, easy go. I mean, I lost all of my Bitcoin that I was hodling onto, right? I've lost it all. It's all gone.
If anyone has tips and advice for Peter Schiff, please.
Well, I'm
please,
getting
please.
them. People think, but again, they think I forgot my password. 100% no. I know exactly what my password was. It was very simple. It's impossible for me to not remember it. It's just that the wallet doesn't recognize it anymore, and I have no way of retrieving it. So my Bitcoin are still in that wallet. They just can't be accessed. So, initially, of course, they have no intrinsic value. Now they have no market value because even if I wanted to sell them, I can't. So that's my cryptos. I lost. It turns out that crypto was my worst investment ever because I lost 100%. But at least I didn't buy them. I got them for free. Had I bought some, that would have been even worse.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Peter. And before I let you go, I got to ask you a question about politics. You always have a lot to say on this. We're in a presidential election year. Fireworks are already flying. If I asked you to evaluate the past 4 years of President Trump, when it comes to, like, from a business standpoint, from the economic standpoint.
Well, from a business standpoint, it's been bad. I mean, it's certainly been bad for my gold business. Gold sales have been lousy under Trump. In fact, ironically, the Perth Mint came out. They had a record year last year in gold sales. The U.S. Mint had the worst year ever.
We did a story on that on Kickoff.
And the reason is, I know my customer, the gold customer, is a Republican. They're the ones that talk about sound money, that are worried about big deficits and about inflation in the Federal Reserve. But since they're so convinced that Trump is such a great guy and he's made America great again, they're not buying gold. And so
the fear's not there.
Right. Now, I think once Trump is replaced, my business is going to boom. I wish Trump, though, would have done the right thing instead of just continue to, blow the bubble.
Isn't that interesting? Because I remember when he was running, everyone thought this is going to be great for gold. Trump and gold are going to go hand in hand.
And ironically, gold is up more during the Trump presidency, during the 3 years, than the 8 years of Obama. Gold initially rallied in Obama, but if you look at how much gold went up from his inauguration to the time he left office, it's gone up more.
The gold price has done well, but not gold. It's not translating into physical gold sales.
Well, no, because Americans aren't the ones buying. And also, part of the problem for Americans is gold is setting a record high in every currency but the dollar. So foreigners are able to see the bull market better, and gold is beating almost every foreign stock market. Gold is up 50% over the last 4 years. That's more than almost every market except the U.S. market.
And central bankers are buying.
The smart ones are. The dumb ones maybe are not. But the smart ones are, and they're going to keep buying. So Americans just don't get it. They're not worried because they think Trump is great. The stock market is in a big bubble, and they're buying stocks. They should be buying gold, but they're not. They will, but at much higher prices.
Who would you like to see him debate? Sanders, Warren, Biden? For entertainment purposes.
And look, the Sanders debate would obviously be more entertaining, I think. I think Sanders represents the bigger threat because I think he's actually a better candidate. Not that he'd be a better president, he'd be a terrible president. But I think he's more appealing as a socialist salesman. Now, the question is, you can bring up a lot of old videos of, communist Bernie Sanders out there, and the question is, will that turn voters off? It's certainly going to turn off Trump voters, Republican Trump voters. I don't know how that will play, though, with some of the Reagan Democrats that may have voted for Trump. But we'll see. But he's at least perceived as being genuine and honest. I think there's still a lot of skepticism of Elizabeth Warren, even though they're both peddling this democratic socialism. And Warren is like kind of pretending to be a capitalist to her bones, right? There is no pretense with Sanders. He's socialist to his bones. So we'll see. But if you look at the current polls, Sanders is beating Trump. Now that may change, once he's actually the candidate. But also the economy may change. At least the perception, the coverage may change. Right, the bubble may burst in a more spectacular way. So
we definitely can't follow the polls if the last election was any proof of that. Peter Schiff, thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow morning for that Ultimate Gold panel. I can't wait for that. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, my pleasure.
You have a lot of people to see. And thank you for watching. We're just starting our coverage. We'll have much more for you on Kitco.com.
At American Coin and Stamp, we've been invested in customer satisfaction in the buying and selling of precious metals, rare coins, and collectibles since 1955. Our more than half a century of experience enables us to sell directly to the end user. Because we deal in volume, we also deal directly with gold refiners, so we can afford to pay you the absolute highest prices for your scrap jewelry. Our expertise of rare coins and the true understanding of your coin's value allows us to buy with confidence. No games, no confusion. Whether your precious metals include coins, gold and silver bullion, or unwanted jewelry, we specialize in buying your gold and silver. Instant cash, no waiting, state-certified scales, and you're paid on the spot. Contact us now and take advantage of our generous buying prices today. You'll be happy you did.